Hi, this is Jules, and I'm your host of The Jules J Show. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into The Jules J Show. I'm your host, Jules J. We definitely want to give a big shout out to Dwan Bosman, Track Cat's family. He actually has a new video out called No Disrespect. You can check it out on our YouTube page at One Track Cats, and will also be on our website at trackcats.com. So today's topic is going to be really near and dear to my heart because me personally, I have experienced this situation before, and I did it at a relatively young age, and that was really, really hard for me to take, but I think that going through this experience has really helped mold me into the person that I am today, but it also has helped me appreciate the hard work that I put in all these years. So the topic today is homelessness. At 15, I was homeless. I didn't really, me and my mother was not on the best of terms at that point in time. I was not living underneath her roof. And it was really difficult because I've slept in cars. I've slept in beat down, run down places, things of that nature. And it's really hard to grasp as a teenager. And I wasn't homeless for a very long time, but just to have that short experience, I couldn't imagine individuals that really suffer, that type of situation on a long-term basis. So I went to National Alliance to End Homeless website, and it's www.endhomelessness.org, and I just kind of pulled up some of their statistics and facts and things like that. I wanted to share it with you because we see it all the time downtown in cities, things of that nature, where, it's groups of individuals that do not have a particular place to go. And yes, there are a lot of, transition homes. There's a lot of, nonprofit organizations that assist individuals with, feeding them and trying to give them, supplies and things like that. But, that's only on a temporary basis. These individuals actually need some place to lay their head. They need some place to take a shower. They need some place to get haircuts and change their clothes and have that opportunity to go get employment so they can become self-sufficient. It's a huge topic about minimum wage, and that's a whole nother show. But let's go ahead and get into, some of the information that I found on National Alliance to End Homelessness website. First of all, the main reasons for individuals that become homeless is because they can't find affordable housing. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD, like we all know, states that approximately 12 million renters/homeowners pay more than 50% of their annual income for housing. More than 50%. So we all know that minimum wage being at $7.25, you're not going to be able to find fair market value housing with that income. I mean, it's just no way. HUD states that people who pay more than 30% of their income for housing is cost burden. So basically, whatever you bring home on a monthly basis, multiply that by 30%. And if you spend more than that amount, then you're cost burdened by housing. And with that, with you being cost burdened, how can you afford, necessities like food? How can you afford clothing? How can you afford transportation? Your regular bills. Let's not even, talk about childcare and, feeding, kids and education and things like that. It makes it rather difficult. So, with this recession that we're in, you've seen a boom in the homeless situation just because people couldn't afford it. They was losing, their jobs, which means they lost their income and things like that. How can they afford that? You come into a situation where you see a lot of, individuals that are living in cars because they can't find, afford housing. So they kind of have to pick and choose. Am I going to have a roof over my head, or I'm going to, use this money for food? And that's a sad situation for individuals to be in. Many homeless, people become a financial crisis that wasn't planned. Like, you have accidents, car accidents, somebody can't work, especially if they're the breadwinner, medical emergencies. There's a death in the family, and what if the person that does passes away is the breadwinner? They're the ones that are out there working and things like that. And if you don't have a life insurance policy to make sure that your family is, straight after you pass away, then that's something that you need to go ahead and start looking into now, because even though you're already passed on, that does put, your loved ones in a situation that, is an extra burden, things like that, with bills and things like that, especially if they're not the ones that are, bringing in the income. Youth often become homeless because of family conflict like divorce, neglect, or abuse. And I get that. I understand that I was one of those, kids in that situation where, family conflict just put a huge wedge in that line of communication and things like that. Many of the youth homeless people actually, experience homelessness on a short-term basis. Either they go back to their family, or, they end up residing with, family members or friends or things like that. So their homelessness is really on a short-term basis. Veterans are homeless for, a number of reasons. A lot of them come back from, overseas or fighting wars or things like that, and have physical disabilities, PSTD, some mental issues with some of the, situations that they've, experienced during war and things like that. And a lot of them have a difficulty actually adjusting to civilian life, especially think about someone that's been in the military for so long. They have a very structured life. And I'm not sure what that transition is from from military life to civilian life is, but, based on the information that I pulled from this website, they have a hard time grasping the civilian life. Let's talk about some of the numbers. These numbers come from point in time counts. These counts are conducted by individual communities on a single night in January every other year. HUD requires that the data every other year to qualify for homeless assistance funds. So once again, HUD, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, actually requires these numbers. Communities at times actually do counts more often than every other year, but HUD does require every other year counts. Now, 633,783 people are homeless on any given night. That's a huge number. I mean, we're creeping to 1 million people in the United States. 13% of those people are actually veterans. 16% of those are chronically suffer homelessness, and these are individuals that are long-term homeless or basically repeat the pattern of being homeless. Now, on this website, National Alliance for Homelessness, they actually give an example of a 10-year plan for individual communities to tackle the homelessness issue. And I'm just going to go through some of these. And I think this is something that I think every community should look at, especially if you have a huge homeless population. There has to be, something done and implemented so, this situation and issue does not continue. I think everybody that lives in America should have a place to rest their head. They should have a hot meal, things of that nature, especially our veterans who have served our country overseas and have fought to make sure that we have the freedom that we have, but yet they come home and are homeless. I think that's a tragedy to me. I think it's completely disrespectful to the veteran that has done so much for the things that we need. So the first one is a plan. There needs to be input from all who are affected by such a huge social issue, and this would include your government officials, your business people, community leaders. And I would actually say that individuals that are suffering homelessness should actually have input in the plan, because they're the ones that are dealing with this on firsthand basis. And, they have that firsthand knowledge. A lot of times, if you're a business leader, government official, things like that, and you've never been in that situation, how can you really provide, that necessary input? Data. You definitely need to know how many people are homeless, and where they, congregate at and things like that to really tackle that number. Emergency prevention. Create programs that will basically eliminate the homelessness situation altogether. If you have a plan to begin with, then that end result shouldn't be the same. System prevention. How many people are actually being released from state and federal institutions, whether it's jail, mental hospitals, things like that don't have that point A to point B information, or go from one situation where they're getting fed, they have a bed and things like that, to just being put on the street. So you definitely need to figure out that point A to point B and make sure that that transition is being a smooth transition. Outreach. Find a way to connect the homeless population with housing and services that are available, whether they're state or federal funded. We definitely need to shorten the homelessness length of time. Programs should be in place to minimize the length of being homeless, the amount of time in shelters and things like that. Rehousing. We need to find landlords or build housing units that actually provide assistance to homeless people. I'm sure that they don't want to be out there sleeping on the streets. I'm sure that, they want to be able to go find a job and be self-sufficient and things like that. But we need to find housing for these individuals so, they have a place to take a shower. They have a place to, clean themselves up and then go present themselves to the possible employer. That is definitely key that we need to do. Services, having services like TANF, SSI, Medicaid, housing assistance, accessible to these, individuals in this population, Section 8, things like that. Making sure that these individuals are aware of it, but not only that, making sure that these individuals are not embarrassed to walk into these type of offices. A lot of times they've been on the streets, they're dirty, they're hungry, they might have a stench to them, things like that. They might be too embarrassed to actually go seek the help that they need because of their situation. And we need to make sure that, they feel comfortable either going into these offices or maybe even, creating an outreach program where you take the individuals that are in the office and you go seek these individuals out and, bring them back or, bring the information to them. But it's there for a reason, and I think they need to be able to utilize that. Of course, like I just said, permanent housing. Permanent housing is the only way to end this epidemic. Giving them some place that they feel safe, that they feel comfortable, that they have the opportunity to have, any type of mental health assistance, drug and alcohol treatment assistance, food assistance, job readiness assistance, barbers, hairstylists, people that donate clothes, things of that nature. They need to have some place where they feel safe and that they can receive all these services on a permanent basis. Income cash assistance programs are available, but once again, they need to know about these things. And not only that, a lot of different places have something called WIA, which is the Workforce Investment Act. And basically, this is a grant that provides individuals to go back to school for a short amount of time to become more marketable, gain the skill set that's needed for them to become, whether it's IT industry, administrative assistant, things of that nature. This WIA service is actually in place for individuals that are like that. So I think it's very important that they know about it, that they have assistance to it, they get approved for it, and find some place where they can go and get the assistance and they become more marketable and become self-sufficient. At the end of the day, that's what you want this population to be, self-sufficient. You want them to be able to take care of themselves, and all they want is someplace that they can call home without, having to share the corner or the sidewalk with somebody. So, with that being said, let me give you, the listeners, a list of organizations that you can reach out to, either for volunteer, to donate, or maybe you're on the verge of being homeless yourself and you want to go ahead and start the process of, finding that safety net or finding out all your avenues and things like that to best benefit you. You might even know somebody that's homeless and you can actually pass this information on to them. Check out your local Salvation Army branch, www.salvationarmyusa.org. United Way Help, www.unitedway.org. Homeless Service at U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is www.hud.gov. And for you, if I'm going too fast, this definitely will be at the end of the show so you can take the information as well. They have a National Coalition for the Homelessness. Neighborhoods has a hotline, which is 888-995-HOPE. And a homeless shelter directory can be found at www.homelessshelterdirectory.org. Like I said, these are just a couple of different places or organizations that you can reach out to, whether you want to, volunteer some of your time. Maybe you want to donate monetary, or you have clothes or food that you want to partner up and be able to donate to these organizations to help feed the homeless, clothe the homeless. You might be on the verge of being homeless, and you need to figure out what options you have, what nonprofit organizations are able to benefit you, and things like that. nobody wants to be in that situation. I've been there, I've done that, I understand it, and it's not anything to be proud of. It's not a situation that makes you feel good about yourself. And when you couple it up with individuals that have mental health diseases, that you have drug and alcohol issues and things like that, or maybe you're a young teenager and you kind of feel like, what's the point? It's kind of hopeless at this point. It's not. There are services out there that can assist you, and I definitely urge everybody, whether you're on the verge of homelessness, or you know somebody that is, or you already know somebody that's in that situation, definitely reach out to them and assist them. And that way, we all could be, have some place that we can call home. I definitely thank everybody for taking the time out. I'm your host, Jules J. Stay tuned for the next show.